Hi, I'm Tim Rajeff. As you can see, we're standing in some dirty water. 2 days ago, this was a nice clear river. So instead of fishing today, we're going to talk a little bit about fiberglass versus graphite fly rods. I don't know about you, but I grew up fishing before graphite rods were invented. And carbon fibers are obviously the dominant material that all fishing rods are mostly made of today. We make space shuttles out of it, we make fighter planes, and all this technical product has improved the technology in graphite fibers. Carbon fibers are stiffer than fiberglass fibers. And so for a given size fly line, we can use thinner walls and make a graphite rod a lot lighter than we could make a corresponding fiberglass rod. And so what that translates into is the fact that when you have two rods that are a similar strength, the graphite rod tends to develop a little bit more line speed. So then you say, well, why would you ever use a fiberglass rod? Well, there are some advantages to glass. And I'll tell you, probably 3/4 of my fishing days, regardless of where I'm fishing, whether it's saltwater, freshwater, or spey rods, I've switched over to glass. There's a certain feel and a soul to glass that I think is irreplaceable. Just to demonstrate this idea that graphite rods of the same stiffness generate a little bit more speed, I'm going to try and cast two rods at once. I've never done this before, and Louis thought I was a maniac. So here I got about 30 feet to the fly. I'm holding two fly rods at the same time. I'm going to make a couple casts, and I think you can see that the graphite rod generated a little more speed, boop, and that the fly on my carbon fiber rod landed first. And the fiberglass rod landed second. So what that means is when I fish conditions where I want a smoother cast, that fiberglass rod delivers the fly a little slower. Kind of helps me with my presentation casts. There's two other things about fiberglass that I think are important to note. The first one is because it's heavier, it recovers a little slower. It's like jumping off a heavy diving board. There's a certain amount of vibration that happens with a fiberglass rod that for me translates into feel. And imagine if it was pitch black here and we were trying to cast a fly rod, and if I tried to know how good my cast was, with the fiberglass I feel more wiggle, and that translates into feel, and it helps me tune my casting stroke. With a lightweight carbon fiber rod, when I make a cast, it's like jumping on a light diving board. It recovers so quick I almost couldn't tell whether I made a good cast or not. So the feel I get from glass is unbelievably rewarding. The second thing about glass that you don't hear about too much is its nature to stretch. The fibers on the top of this fly rod, when I'm fighting a fish, are being stretched, and glass fibers stretch almost 3 times as much as carbon fibers. What that means for you is after you've hooked a fish and you're fighting a fish, and when that fish surges, that rod will continue to bend and not break the tippet as often. So it absorbs more shock better. It translates into ability to put maximum pressure on the fish, and if the fish surges, the carbon fiber rod will lock up and sometimes break the tippet, or in bigger fishing situations, you might pull the hook. So glass rods actually, in a lot of cases, will help me land more fish. So hopefully that kind of gives you the introduction on the difference between glass and carbon fibers. Thanks for spending time with me. Check out more stuff on Gink and Gasoline.